For decades, the world has witnessed a quiet storm, threats exchanged in hushed tones, alliances shifting like tectonic plates beneath the earth. This is no coincidence, no mere political game. This is a chapter written long before our time, inscribed in the eternal scrolls of prophecy. Two nations stand at the center of this unfolding drama, a struggle as old as history itself. The world sees tension, the scriptures reveal a divine narrative. Leaders plot and strategize, but what they fail to grasp is that the outcome is already known in the realms unseen. But, brethren, what unseen forces are at work behind this ancient conflict? What greater design is moving silently through the currents of history, one that no human hand can alter? The answers lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who dare to seek the truth beneath the surface. This is not merely a story of conflict. It is a call to awaken, to open your eyes to the divine purpose weaving through every event. In the moments ahead, we will journey beyond the surface, revealing what has been foretold and understanding the role that destiny itself demands. Now let's begin. Israel versus Iran, this is how it will all end according to the Bible. Section 1, The Spiritual Roots of the Conflict. The conflict we witness today is not a sudden eruption of modern rivalries or political ambitions. It is the unfolding of a story that began long ago, thousands of years before our time, a story etched into the very fabric of history by divine decree. This is a spiritual battle that predates nations, borders, and governments. It is a clash rooted in the womb of time itself, where destinies were shaped and legacies set in motion. In the sacred record of Genesis, God reveals to Rebekah a profound truth: two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you shall be divided, the one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Genesis 25 verse 23. These words declare more than the fate of two brothers, they unveil the eternal conflict between two spiritual legacies. Jacob, chosen to carry the covenant of blessing, and Esau, whose legacy carries the weight of bitterness and rebellion. Esau's bitterness was not a fleeting human emotion. It became a generational spirit, a restless enmity that would echo through time and space. This spirit found expression in the nation of Edom and later in Persia, the land now known as Iran. This is no coincidence. The spiritual animosity that began in the womb of Rebekah flows through centuries, shaping ideologies and fueling resistance against God's ordained purpose. The prophet Malachi exposes this divine truth with clarity: I have loved Jacob, but Esau I have hated, and I have made his mountains a desolation and appointed his inheritance to the jackals of the desert. Malachi 1 verse 3. Here, God's judgment is not mere punishment but a declaration of the spiritual divide that defines these nations and their descendants. Ezekiel's words further illuminate the depth of this hatred: You have had a perpetual hatred, and have shed the blood of the righteous continually. Ezekiel 35 verse 5. This reveals a spiritual reality far beyond the political. It is a relentless struggle between obedience to God's plan and rebellion against it. This ancient spiritual root is the unseen force behind what appears as political conflict today. It is not Israel versus Iran alone, it is the eternal conflict of light against darkness, covenant against rebellion. Understanding this is crucial, for without recognizing the root, we cannot discern the fruit or grasp the full scope of the battle before us. But what if this ancient enmity is only part of the story? What if beneath the surface lies a deeper layer, a spiritual power at work shaping the destiny of nations in ways few dare to imagine? The answers lie ahead, and what you are about to hear next will challenge everything you think you know about this age-old conflict. Section 2, Iran's prophetic role in end-time scripture. There are moments in history when the veil between the natural and the supernatural is pulled back, revealing the divine chessboard where the fate of nations is decided by powers unseen. Today, as we stand on the edge of prophecy fulfilled, the name Persia echoes loudly in the chambers of God's eternal plan. Persia, known now as Iran, is not simply a country on the map, it is a living symbol of ancient spiritual conflict that continues to ripple through our present age. Persia is named in the very prophecies that speak of the final days. Ezekiel 38 verse 5 declares, Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. This isn't just a historic footnote, it's a declaration of Persia's alignment in the last great confrontation against Israel. And if God chose to name Persia among the enemies of his people in the final hour, then we must not take Iran's current stance lightly. These are not random headlines. These are echoes of prophecy. But the pattern is ancient. In the book of Esther, we see this same Persia as the soil where a deadly plot was conceived. Esther 3 verse 6 unveils the rage of Haman, a man who was not just offended, but driven by an unclean hatred to erase God's people from the earth. That spirit did not die with him. It merely found new voices, new robes, and new palaces. What once whispered in the corridors of a Persian palace now speaks into microphones in modern assemblies, cloaked in nationalism but rooted in rebellion against God's covenant. Yet, beneath even that, beyond the visible stage, is a deeper war. In Daniel 10 verse 13, the prophet tells us, But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. An angel from God, delayed by a territorial principality over Persia. This was not earthly resistance, this was a spiritual blockade. A demonic force assigned to hinder heavenly assignments. Persia was, and still is, a battleground of angelic conflict. A place where earthly kingdoms intersect with spiritual dominions. So when we look at the headlines, when we see Iran's threats, its coalitions, its posturing, we must not respond merely with political opinions. We must discern. Because what's unfolding is ancient. It is a spirit that has rehearsed its hatred for generations. A prophetic shadow moving closer to the light of fulfillment. And yet, this is only one layer of the story. If Persia represents a rising resistance, then what about Israel's place in all this? What if the storm gathering around her is not just about war, but about awakening? What if the hostility she faces is part of something God is preparing, not just for her, but for the world? Stay with me, because in the next moment, we're going to uncover the stirring within Israel herself, something prophetic, something divine. That the enemy fears more than we realize. Section 3, How it will end, the prophetic outcome. When the nations of the earth find themselves locked in fierce conflict, as we now see between Iran and Israel, it is easy to be consumed by fear, by the noise of war and the strategies of men. Yet, behind the scenes of this very struggle, there is a reality far greater than any earthly battle. The conclusion of this war is not in the hands of nations, not in the power of armies or weapons, but in the hands of the Almighty God, who rules over history and destiny with unyielding authority. Look with me through the eyes of Daniel, a prophet who saw beyond the turmoil of kingdoms rising and falling. He saw this very moment, when hostile forces gather, alliances form, and the world holds its breath. But in the end, Daniel's vision reveals a kingdom that will crush all others. This kingdom, established by God Himself, is eternal. It will not be shaken by the conflicts of men, no matter how fierce or widespread. John's vision in Revelation speaks to this very gathering, naming the place where the kings of the earth, including those from the east, converge. This is Armageddon, the final stand not decided by human ambition but by divine intervention. The conflict between Iran and Israel is a part of this prophetic tapestry, a thread woven into the grand design of God's plan. The armies that march are not outside His knowledge, their fate is sealed by the one who holds the destiny of all nations. As Ezekiel foretells, the alliance surrounding Iran will face a judgment so decisive it will shake the very foundations of the earth. This is not punishment born out of human vengeance but the righteous justice of God. The hand that moves in this hour is a hand of authority and holiness, a hand that brings final reckoning and establishes peace beyond all understanding. For us who watch and listen, this truth is a solemn reminder: the conflict between Iran and Israel is more than political or territorial. It is part of a divine narrative, a moment in time where God's kingdom prepares to rise above all earthly powers. When the dust settles and the last trumpet sounds, the only place of safety and peace will be found in obedience to God's will, in surrender to His eternal reign. So, reflect deeply, as the world watches this war unfold, where will your heart stand? Will you cling to fear and confusion, or will you anchor your soul in the eternal kingdom that will outlast every human conflict? This is the revelation God brings forth now, to prepare us, to awaken us, and to draw us closer into His peace, which surpasses all understanding. Section 4, Israel's divine destiny cannot be broken. The story of Israel is not just history, it is a divine truth that echoes through time and into your very soul. In every age, through every trial and every rebellion, the God of heaven has never abandoned His people. His covenant with Israel is eternal, unshakable, and anchored not in their faithfulness but in His unchanging character. Even when they turned away, even when the world seemed to forget, the hand of God remained steady, holding them close. Think back to a time when Jerusalem lay in ruins, its walls torn down, its people scattered and broken. Yet God raised up a man named Nehemiah, burdened with a holy mission to restore what was lost. Against every obstacle, against scoffing and threats, those walls were rebuilt. This was more than construction, it was a declaration that God's promise cannot be undone. He rebuilds His people, not because they are perfect, but because His name and His honor depend on it. This truth is engraved deep within the heart of God Himself. As the prophet Isaiah proclaimed, "I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Imagine that. God's people etched upon His very hands, a permanent mark of His relentless love and remembrance. The God who created all things carries the image of His people within Himself, never forgetting, never forsaking. The Apostle Paul reminds us further, God has not rejected His people. The branches remain part of the tree, and though we are grafted in by grace, the chosen place of Israel before God endures. Their story is alive and unfolding, a living testament to mercy, promise, and the faithfulness of the Almighty. Now, reflect deeply. If God is faithful to keep His promise to a nation, one that has often faltered, how much more will He keep His promise to you? Your life, your struggles, your faith, all held within the hands of a God who never breaks His word. Section 5, What should the chosen ones do now? In this pivotal hour, the call upon the chosen is clear and unwavering. Rise above fear, rise above confusion, and step fully into your God-ordained purpose. The world may tremble, shadows may lengthen, but the Spirit of the living God stirs within you, urging you to intercede, to stand firm in clarity, and to move in obedience with holy boldness. Consider the story of Daniel, a man who found himself in a land far from home, in a place that should have bred despair and defeat. Yet, in the midst of captivity, Daniel's heart was steadfast. His prayers were not mere words, they were the lever that shifted the course of empires. He did not succumb to the weight of his circumstances but pressed into God with fervent intercession. In the silence of his devotion, nations were turned, and God's will was made manifest. This same power, this same authority, rests in you. The time for passive faith has passed. The scriptures remind us in Isaiah, "You who call on the Lord, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes Jerusalem and makes her the praise of the earth. You are the watchman on the wall, not to slumber or whisper quietly, but to stand alert, vigilant, and unwavering in your spiritual assignment. You are entrusted with a responsibility that transcends human understanding, to watch, to pray, to warn, and to intercede. The Apostle Peter urges us with a sober warning: the end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Prayer is the weapon of the prepared, the shield of the steadfast. It is through prayer that confusion gives way to revelation, and fear is overcome by peace that surpasses understanding. Prayer aligns our spirit with the divine purpose, sharpening our vision so we can discern the movements of God amidst chaos. And when the days grow dark, when the signs of the times multiply, Jesus himself commands, when these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. There is a posture we must adopt, not one of despair, but of hope, expectation, and courageous anticipation. Your spiritual eyes must be fixed upward, unwavering, ready to see God's hand move mightily. This is not a season for silence or passivity. God is calling his chosen to intercession, to clarity, to obedience that shakes the very foundations of the earth. You are not a bystander, you are a warrior in the spirit realm. Your prayers are not powerless, they are the force that will shift destiny, release breakthrough, and bring divine intervention. Reflect deeply now: what role are you called to play in this prophetic hour? Are you standing watch, prayerful and alert? Are you prepared to be a beacon of light amid growing darkness? This is the time to rise, to act, to intercede fervently. Do not let confusion cloud your spirit, do not allow fear to bind your voice. You are chosen for such a time as this. Embrace your calling. Stand firm. Pray without ceasing. And watch how God moves through you to bring clarity, peace, and victory to a world in desperate need. As we close this moment of reflection, I invite you to share your thoughts below. What do you believe is your role in this prophetic hour? Engage in this divine conversation with others who hunger for spiritual clarity. If this message has stirred your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let us spread understanding, not confusion, and walk boldly into the purpose God has prepared for us.